So personally, I have wanted to really make a elemental burn focused build for Once Human, and really had been kind of struggling because of how the game is kind of time gated and how I'm able to acquire weapons and everything. And I have somehow been able to create one that is actually able to do the level 50 hard mode endgame content solo. You don't need anybody else doing this. This is all you, and it can be pretty much using purple gear that you are getting throughout the world as is. So let's jump right into this build and show why this could be one of the best options, if not your new favorite option for doing damage. Now, we're going to first start off with the deviant that we're going to be using for the setup, and that's going to be Pyro Dino. You're able to get this from the Silo Phi. This is going to be the one that's just a little bit northwest of Greywater. You're going to have to go into the mid room where you're going to fight the Umbrella boss. You defeat them, and then you move on to the small little room where you're going to do your little treasure, and it has a chance to spawn in there. It's either going to be Pyro Dino or Chephosaurus, so that's kind of unfortunate, honestly, just for the fact that you kind of have to like coin flip if you're even going to get one, and then coin flip if it's even going to be the variation you want. But its main ability is the fact that it increases target blaze damage by a certain percentage based on the skill rating. Mine is a 1-1, so the skill rating is a 19.6%, which is great, just honestly, regardless. And when attacking targets afflicted by burn, cause explosion 1 time. So that's great for just like kind of spreading around blaze and everything like that. But again, this is going to be a great option for whenever you're going into bossing scenarios, so that you're able to just instantly, literally melt targets with ease. Now, the main weapon we're going to be using for this is the Crank. This is going to be the Fire Burn AK. It reads hitting enemies 7 times triggers burn. Killing enemies with burn grants reload speed, plus 20% in burn damage, plus 15% for 5 seconds, and it grants an additional stack of burn. Now, obviously, you can use something like the Boom Boom, which is going to be that legendary LMG. It causes great explosions and stuff like that. But this is a great option if you are somebody who is just wanting to, again, not have to spend a bunch of star crumb to get anything throughout the world, and being able to just, simply find this in one of those mysterious chests and instantly plug and play. The main perk I am running on this is Ember Talents. When burn is removed, stacks only minus 50%. Now, big reason why I like this is the fact that, again, we aren't losing as many stacks, and that burn is able to continue on a target continuously without being interrupted. Beforehand, I actually did run a different one. I actually ran Flame Resonance for a maximum plus 2 stacks, but the duration is minus 20%. That seemed okay, but then I swapped over to this Ember Talents and immediately was like, oh my gosh, this is so much better. I went from like about 70k DPS per mag, including like the burn ticking over time, to a minimum of 115k with this one on. So definitely Ember Talents is going to be the best option. Quick rundown of accessories that I run, because I guess this is something that people have really been interested. I didn't think people really care that much. I'm using a large suppressor, a reflex sight, a triangle grip, and probably the most important thing is going to be this extended mag right here. You're able to find this from getting some of those like lily pads in the West Blackheart region. It was a little bit difficult to find, but once I found it, it was pretty nice for literally any AK, any AR I was running. As always, the second weapon we're going to run is that recurve crossbow for that bullseye effect, so that we're getting that additional vulnerability on targets, and that we're also getting that additional crit rate. And then the perk that I run on it is that vulnerability amplifier for the additional 8% on top of the initial bullseye. Now, let's run a little damage test here to kind of show off what we got going on. This is just going to be for just the AK itself, nothing else added on, and this is going to be all of the burn stacks we are getting. So you're seeing about 1900, almost 2000 just there as is. It kind of like slowly starts ticking down a little bit, but at the same time, it is staying on longer on targets and getting us a little bit more. It should be kind of fizzling out here in a second. I love using all these burn terms for things. So 112,000 damage for 1 mag with just the burn there itself. So let's give it a quick second, let all my different resets go on there, and then we're going to do this with a weak spot as well, so that we can kind of test that out. We're going to do that, and then if I can change weapons, because this game is sometimes very laggy when it comes to swapping things around. And now we're going to see we're getting about 2200 burn stacks there. Obviously, they haven't trickled down too deep yet, so we are now officially past what we were already doing, which is great. and it's going to give us an additional probably about 20,000 damage right there than we typically got last time. So always a great option. And then we are going to pop our Chephosaurus here, or Pyro Dino as I should call him. Gosh, I'm so used to doing Chephosaurus. But we're going to pop him, and now we're going to do this. And it's going to be a whole lot more. And we're not even having Pyro Dino even shooting anything at this target or anything like that. And look, we are at like 2,700. We're at 13, and we're already past what we had with the weak spot. Obviously, you combine these two things together, it's going to be an even higher number. I don't really want to bore you guys with damage numbers for too long, but you get the point. It's pretty sick. Now let's talk about armor sets and things we're going to be using. First up, for the unique item that we're using is going to be those barbecue gloves. Burn damage frequency increases the number of stacks up to 100%, meaning that we're just going to be getting additional damage on top of our burn that we were already having. I'm also running a 3-piece heavy duty set, mainly for that second part there, the elemental damage increase. But then the third one is actually pretty awesome as well. After killing an enemy, increase movement speed by 20% for 2 seconds and elemental damage by 40%, and it decays over 8 seconds. So getting that additional 40% whenever we're just like killing a target. So even in bossing scenarios, if there's like a basic ad around, shoot it real fast, kill it, and then get that additional 40% for yourself to burn on the main target. And then I'm also running a double lone wolf just right now, just because I don't have the items that I want for a shelter set to get that additional 8%. I will talk at the end here about shelter set and how it interacts, but at least for right now, I'm just running an additional lone wolf. This isn't really helping us all that much outside of just giving us increased magazine size. So we're going to burn through all of these mods real fast, kind of talking about them. On our hat, we're running Deviation Expert for the additional 20% status damage that we're wanting for this build. Status damage is going to be a really big part of it. I say go into that first before element damage. Element should be just a kind of a complement more than anything, but status should be the first focus that you have. Then Blaze Amplifier on our mask for that increased psi intensity for every stack of burn on a target, which again, psi intensity is going to help us out with everything else in the build. The higher the number that is, the better off we are. On our jacket, we are running extra status damage on there. Pants, we're running additional status damage. On our barbecue gloves, I actually have this precision one. This gives me additional 20% status damage. That one is really freaking nice to have. And then finally, on our boots, a gold slow and steady for an additional 10% melee weapon and status damage. But when my HP is above 90%, I get additional 10%, so 20% in total. Now let's run through our Memantic's Cradle and everything you're gonna need here. First up, automatic weapon enhancement for that additional 20% damage to our rifle. That's obviously great. Master Tactician is a huge one, especially whenever you're bossing. Just chuck a Molotov cocktail at an enemy real fast, and then you get that additional 25% damage. Deviation Master, so that whenever we pop that Pyro Dino, we're getting that additional damage there. I run Agility so that whenever I'm rolling around, I get that damage reduction. I notice that I do that a lot just kind of naturally, so it's great to have. Rapid Aid for the fact that I'm going to be getting that additional healing. Status enhancement for that after hitting a weak spot. My status damage is going to go up by 25% for 3 seconds. Obviously really great to have. Sustained suppression, killing an enemy with continuous damage such as burn, increases continuous damage by 20% for 10 seconds and stacks up to 3 times. Obviously great for burn build where we're constantly doing that continuous damage. And then finally, Prairie Fire Inferno, based on the number of nearby units affected by burn, increase blaze damage by 15% per unit, up to a maximum of 60%. Obviously, in those main mobbing and everything scenarios, this is going to be really, really nice. Now, let's talk really quick about some of these additional armor pieces and kind of like min-maxing options that you might have. Hardy gloves are an option here. At full stack, burn will cause an explosion that deals blaze damage with 300% psi intensity and remove all stacks of burn. Personally, I don't find this to be all that useful. You're going to get a lot more damage, in my opinion, from just getting that overtime damage that burn is going to give you versus just an explosion that's just going to take away all those, ticking stacks that you have on a target. Drifter gauntlets, I'm going to say, is just absolutely a no-go for me. When affected by burn, weapon damage 15% and crit rate 15%, especially in elemental builds, I've noticed you're not really worried about either of those two things. So having something where it's like, hey, do damage to yourself to help benefit something that's not even going to really help your build is not worth it to me. And then obviously before I mentioned that shelter set and why I liked it, obviously on that second part, we get that additional 8% blaze damage. On that third stack, where every single stack of deviant energy you have, you gain additional 1% elemental damage up to 20 stacks. and then reloading is going to remove them, but that means you're just still getting 10% additional just from that alone, which is great to have, because you're already going to be going to a lot of status damage as is with your build with the mods itself. So this is a great way to complement. Again, like I was mentioning before, status should be the main focus with mods, and then element should be the main focus with armor. And then obviously on that fourth one, increase max deviant energy stacks by 10, additional 2 stacks when hitting a weak spot. So obviously constantly keeping up high elemental damage. Thanks so much for watching the video, guys. I hope you really enjoy it. I've been absolutely loving creating these endgame builds. I really wish, though, that I was able to, get a whole lot more Starcrum and everything else like that without, creating a whole new character just to like test out builds and everything like that. It's a little annoying, so I hope over time that we can kind of change it up a little bit. Let me know if you guys would be interested in kind of a like what I would want to change video I would like to do, but I'm only gonna do if people are like interested. People who just want build videos, I'll just do that. But again, that's something to tell me in the comments down below. But again, just give a like on this video. It helps us out in the algorithm. Subscribe, become a member, and follow me over on YouTube and Twitter at Byrdman778. Guys, thank you so much. I hope you have a great night, day, whatever it may be.